Hi everybody, this is Joel Kennedy with Kennedy Violins. So today's another play-along video, and we're going to be doing a song out of the Suzuki Book series, Suzuki Book 2, Gavotte from Mignon. So as many of you know, we're currently doing a Suzuki series, and every week I cover a song, and then at the end of the video I throw a dart at the dartboard of destiny back there. It determines what the Suzuki song for next week is, although admittedly we are starting to run out of pieces, so we're going to have to start a different series at some point. Anyway, let's get on with Gavotte from Mignon. Okay, so I'm just going to play through it, probably a little bit too fast, and then I'm going to go over it slowly with the metronome and talk about a few things to help out. Okay, and that's that. Okay, so let's talk about the simple things first. We are in the key of G major, so we have 1 sharp. So that the simple finger pattern is we have high second finger on the G, high second finger on the D, low second finger on the A, low second finger on the E. Okay, so as far as our time signature is concerned, we're in 2/4, right? So the quarter note gets the beat if you're putting a metronome on. And we have the equivalent of 2 quarter notes per measure. A lot of times we have 4 or 3. This time we have 2. Okay, so let's talk about the articulation really quick. So articulation, we have a lot of dots on the notes, and we can either do staccato, short notes on the string, or spiccato, short notes off the string. I seriously doubt anybody's going to play the spiccato. That would be a little bit weird. Of course, you're more than welcome to do that. But for all intents and purposes, we're going to be doing staccato. So I advise you to play most all of this song in the lower part of the bow. Right? Not in the middle, not necessarily, not in the upper part. Pretty much to stick in the lower part of the bow. So for the staccato, it's mostly just important not only to stay in the lower part of the bow, but to make sure you stop your bow in between the notes, and make sure that every note is exactly the same length and it's in exactly the same part of the bow. So you don't want to find yourself wandering towards the middle part of the bow or wandering towards the tip, right? So every time you do a down and every time you do an up, it's always using the same part of the bow, and you're using the same length of bow for every note. So right? Not. No. It's right here. And, right? So that's the first little hint. The other thing is you want to make sure that every time you have a down, right, where you're doing a down bow, then you have to do another down bow, always go back to the same part of the bow every time. So for example, I have another down bow, retake back to the frog, 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 right? So remember, with bowing, you need to know exactly what kind of bowing you want to do, exactly what length of a note that you want to do, and exactly where in the bow that you want to be, and you want to be super, super consistent. Remember, you are in control of your bow, not the bow, okay? So that's a big one. Okay, so the other thing, besides the rhythm that we'll get to, is I highly suggest that you always practice this without slur. So there's some tricky sections further down on the first page for pitch. There's a lot of accidentals. This is a tough song. If you don't practice it a certain way, you're gonna have a hard time playing this. So I'm trying to basically show you how to practice this so it's not nearly as difficult as it usually is for people who just don't practice it right. So for example, on our 32nd notes, practice them without the slur. Up, up, right? Same with the 16th notes. Okay, so further down, for example, 3 lines from the bottom, last measure, okay? It's a little, we got accidental difficulties here, okay? So, practice all of those without slurs. And if you want to at some point put the metronome in and practice it without slurs with the metronome, that's fine. Just remember, pretty much the easiest trick for you to make sure you get all the rhythms right and you're very comfortable with the rhythms and you can play it with the metronome, take those slurs out. So let's talk about how to practice some of these rhythms specifically. Okay, so I'm going to put the metronome on 50. Okay, this is very slow. But the reason is because of these 32nd notes, okay? So if I'm practicing it along, remember, these are quarter notes. So 8th, 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 8th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and if it helps you, put on that figure, put an up bow on that E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, it's on 6. So you put that up bow on that open E. Just write it in. That way you can anticipate it. Again, then, so once you're comfortable playing this without the slur, then put the slur in. Okay? That's about it. So from the beginning, I'll just play the first 2 lines. Okay. So that's about it for that rhythm. We don't need to go through the whole thing because it's pretty much the same rhythms repeated over and over again. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about strategies that you can use so you'll play in tune. Okay, so the 5th line down, we start to get quite a few accidentals. Okay, so the 5th line down, we have that high 2nd finger in the first measure. That's a C sharp, right? C sharp. And then it happens again and again and again and again for 2 lines. Okay, So the thing that you just got to remember to help you make sure you get this in tune when it gets a little harder with the 16th notes is make sure that that high 2 touches your third finger. Remember, half steps, you always have fingers touching each other. If they're not, well, you're playing it wrong. You're playing something wrong. So make sure those high 2s touch your third finger. Touch. 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 This one's a little harder because you have that low first finger. Touch that 3. And okay, so here's the second tip. Whenever you have a low first finger, make sure you always aim for that nut. Touch that nut on your fingerboard. If your finger's not touching it, you're probably not playing it low enough. So make sure every time you play that low first finger, you're aiming for that nut. Then it's natural. Okay, so the next little tricky section is the third line from the bottom, last measure. Now we have an F natural. So here's the trick for this section, and this is arguably the most difficult section in the whole piece for pitch. The thing that you can do that'll really make this way easier is keep that first finger down, that F natural. So that last measure, third line from the bottom, keep that first finger down the entire time that you play until you have to pick it up. So here's what I mean. So keep it down the whole time. Now you can pick it up. Keep it down. Now, why is that? Because if you keep that first finger down, that's your foundation. So now you're going to teach all of your fingers what they feel like above that low first finger. For example, same measure, right? Last measure, third line from the bottom. Touch that 3 that your first finger is already down. There it is again. Touch that 3. Now play that first finger that's already down. Low 4 again. Touch the 3. And so on and so forth. Okay, so those are the 2 pitch sections. So basically, just remember, in a nutshell, if you have a difficult time with some pitch, remember the relationship of the fingers. Is it a half step or a whole step? Usually knowing that relationship will help you a lot. And also keeping fingers down. So in that section, keep that first finger down. So let's see if there's anything else we need to talk about. Okay, so last thing we'll talk about is the third measure from the end, right? We have that pizzicato. Okay, so the most important thing to remember about that pizzicato is that we have 2 up bows before that pizzicato. Why? Well, because they're trying to put your hand right where it needs to be to pluck those strings. So if we're fourth measure from the end, up, this puts your finger right in position. So make sure when you do that up, it puts your finger right where it needs to be. Up, stick that finger out. And remember, when you pizzicato, right, we always want a pizzicato here, right, somewhere over the fingerboard. Never pizzicato here, right? Pizzicato here. You're going to get a warmer sound, and the strings have a little bit less tension. They're going to be easier to pluck. So, over the fingerboard. Right? And when you are placing your fingers for this end, make sure you go 1, 2, right? Just do 1, 2. Put your first finger down the A. Make sure your 2 on your E touches your 1. 1, 2. So 1, 2. Just practice it just like that. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. And that's it, okay? So let's see what the piece for next week is going to be. Oh, by the way, don't forget to like and subscribe the video. Most of you guys aren't subscribed for whatever reason. I don't know. Just subscribe anyways. Just hit the subscribe button. At least hit the like button. Even if you don't like it, just pretend. Pretend for me. We'll both be fake for each other. So like and subscribe. Okay, so let's get the weapon out and we're just going to throw it at the wall and see if we can harm some small animals. Okay, so I have my weapon in hand. And as I said, we're running out of songs. So I'll throw the dart and whatever song sort of kind of is the closest. Well, that's what we're going to do for next week. Okay, so here we go. Whoop. All right, long ago. So book 2, long ago. Okay, so I hope you guys found this video helpful. And if you have any questions or comments, of course, put them in the comments because I do respond to everybody's comments. If you got some great ideas for what you want me to do, you got some questions or got a song you want me to play, hey, just let me know. Maybe I'll do it. I probably will. So with that, I hope you guys have a good time practicing and we'll see you later.